You're now tuned in to 13signsastrology.com. So basically what's going on, the last probably 100 videos was essentially like a live feed. And that live feed was essentially like a story showing you where I came from as far as my work and my teachings and things of that nature, how I first started out. Presenting the occult to you, essentially just presenting it, as a speaker and as an orator. But this second time around, or since 2020, essentially all of those videos from 2020 on out that are uploaded on this channel, this is the aspect of actually a live feed or a live ritual is what you're watching. And that live feed has now come to a period. And it came to a period when I went into the information and started talking about the poles. So you come to find out, when I went into the information and talking about the poles, that kind of completed the whole aspect of the experiment. Because the poles control or set the balance, essentially, on the earth. And the poles are connected to what's called the water. They control the waters of the earth through magnetism. This is how the waters flow and they move, and everything that the waters do is based upon the poles. And in these poles, believe it or not, they have computer programs linked into these poles in certain cities, in certain areas. And I went to some of those cities in some of my videos. I'm not going to tell you where, but if you could, essentially what I'm showing you is that if you connect the dots to the places where I did a lot of videos over the past year, you'll begin to see that what I'm essentially showing you is a grid. It's a grid. And I ended off at the pole because this is the 0 point. This is essentially what the pole is. It's a 0 point. So what I did is that I essentially mapped out a grid or a circle. And then a pole, which is actually synonymous with the penis, believe it or not, too, is the 0 point. So this is the point where, so this is why, like, when I'm using this as an analogy, but this is real though, because the strip club, what it does is that it reflects the occult. So when a woman is on a pole, this represents the penis, because this represents everything is centered around the pole. So the earth is set up the same way. The waters are centered around this pole or this final point. And the Atlantic here's what I want to point out, and the key point here of this video is to point this out. The Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean are connected at a certain point in an underground grid. All of these waters that you're thinking are spread out and all of that and separate, they're connected at a certain point in an underground grid. So when you start talking about the Illuminati and Illuminati doctrine, you have to be mindful that there's only certain areas that the Illuminati can do high magic at. There's only certain areas that they can do certain types of rituals at in certain areas. So when they do rituals, they have to go to key areas on the grid. And this whole earth is nothing but a map or a puzzle or a grid. And the Illuminati, the only thing they do to keep control and to confuse you is that they do different patterns and move different ways on the grid. So essentially where I'm at now is that, just to sum all of this up, is that we had a big bet last night, and I did lose that bet. However, that's going to all be transferred to my new soul group. I've now found from these rituals, and this is why I say that I've hit 0 point, because I've now found my soul group. I found this new soul group. And it's funny because I'm speaking on it on a spiritual level and how it happened on a spiritual level, but what's happening now is that my physical reality is now starting to change based upon this new soul group that I've met. So what's happening is now that a lot of my commodities and things of that nature, I'm taking 1 million of my views. And what I did is that instead of saying you lost it, what I do is that I track money. So instead of saying that I lost $1 million, $1 million worth of views, which I could easily say in this bet, I would just say that I traded this for a group of queens, a group of queens that are in my soul group. And what we do now is that we're working with different teams, essentially. See, all this stuff is sports and baseball and all that. This is nothing but land lotteries. And a person was on the channel yesterday and they were asking me, how do you access the credit Like, how can a person really get this credit that I'm speaking about? And it's like you have to have agreements in each land. You have to have contracts and treasury bonds set up in each land to access and get this credit. And then from there, you have to prove this. When a live feed happens or when a live event happens, so say for instance, like yesterday, the Pirates played Philly, Pittsburgh played Philly. That was a key game, especially even in this video. That's what led to the other game, which was the Reds and the Mets. See that when Pittsburgh won that was a bet as to whether or not the rates were going to control everything. See, Pittsburgh in that hand represented the rates. So were the rates going to control everything, or is the old government, or what's called the Continental Congress out of Philly, which is going to the governors and the politicians, are they going to keep control through bills and taxes over commerce and money? And they're showing that the rates are now in control, meaning that money is in control. Even in politicians, like you have to have certain types of credit and your credit structured a certain way in order to now draw credit and to move around and do certain things in the matrix. So what I'm pointing out here with my work is that how to actually build a credit card essentially out of your own life, from using your name, your social security number, which will be your credit card number in this particular experiment, and in your real estate and where you have property at, and linking that together in a grid, and then going from there and traveling and setting up a net or a grid so that you can form a credit net for yourself, so that you can begin to beat taxes and actually not only just beat taxes but turn tax money into profit. See, this is the goal, and that's what I never went to that point yet. So where I'm going into now is that I'm starting the private order, and I'm still taking on students. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's just that now we have what's called the family. I found my family, my soul family, which is a group of women mostly. And it's a reason for that. I'll go into another video. And then you have fans, friends, things of that nature. Family, they donate, they pay dues, we trade, we barter, we take care of each other, you know, in a group format. And this is what I wanted. My heart is so happy. So this is at 0 point. So for what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to start making more information to start teaching you how to actually operate as a family, and then turn that into a business. And I'm going to start coming with a lot of business type of information linked into spirituality and numerology and astrology. So that's how it's going to be like a metaphysical business channel is what I'm doing, because I'm morphing the channel now. So we again put a period in part 2. So now we're moving into phase 3. So I'm not gonna quit. I was telling a few people, saying, you gonna quit? Nah, they really didn't buy me out, because the bank, you know, like I banked essentially when I saw the hand, it was banked. So it really was never sold. The bank just essentially put up money, which, you know, I have a private bank in the way that I do my business, put up collateral to just essentially buy me out, and I'm traded. My resources are now traded into different land lotteries, essentially is what I was saying. So nah, it never was really, I mean, the bet was lost, but again, you can still track those funds and still keep control of that credit. So that's essentially what happened. So I'll go into more again, man, just chopping it up, showing you what the result of real rituals and what happens and what you can gain from this. And when you put yourself out there like that, like what exactly happens and how you have to actually move. Like, this is documenting the lifestyle of a sovereign or indigenous person, and how you use the land and turn it into credit so that you can morph and eventually get out of your situation. So I'll be coming back up with more. Thank you guys for listening and watching. I'm gonna go ahead and get started my day here in Chicago. Anybody, again, readings, I am doing readings. As far as like more so like consultation, I have different types of readings, so you'd have to text me and we can converse and figure out what reading is best for you, because I have financial readings, relationship readings, different types of readings, soul purpose readings and things of that nature that I do, and consultations and question and answer formats that I do for people. So shoot me a text, 513-304-8638. I'm gonna keep giving out the number. Again, also we do these videos and everything totally with our own funds. Any donations could be sent to 13signsastrology@gmail.com. As always, stay vigilant. Namaste. Hotep. Wadu.